Welcome back, warrior. We are reading Genesis chapter 19, and I am on incline level 8 because my treadmill is dying, and I think the level 8 keeps it moving. We'll see anyway. Let's turn this on, keep our walk going. Hike, you mean? Yes, I do mean hike. Okay, the beginning says, Lot entertains holy men. The men of Sodom seek to abuse Lot's guests and are smitten with blindness. Lot is sent out of Sodom. The Lord rains brimstone and fire upon Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot's daughters preserve his seed in the land. Okay, a lot of stuff going on here. And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. Remember that Abraham and the Lord made a covenant together that he would at least save Lot, right? So, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold, now my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. So it was like a totes and approps place to be. And it sounded like Lot was trying to protect them in some way, even though they don't need protection, because anyway, I could go off on a lot of things, but for the sake of time, because this could end up being so long if we end up doing all kinds of stuff, because this has 38 verses. So, and he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. I don't think they wanted to know them, you know what I'm saying? There's a quote here in Jude, chapter 1, verse 7. It says, so this is what other prophets have said of those in Sodom. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth far an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. End quote. That is so crazy. And it just tells you a lot about the wickedness that was going on in that time. Okay, and Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him. So he's like, hold on, let me talk to you guys. And he's closing the door, and he's like, so what's up, guys? Right? And said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters, which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Now, this is not a good thing that these girls' father did, so sad that Lot would even give his daughters like this. It's just total gross, these days dads would not be doing that. At least the dads I know. Because and do ye to them as is good in your eyes? What? No thanks. Only unto these men do nothing. So he's trying to protect these men who could clearly protect themselves, and not his daughters. That is not cool in my eyes. For therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And so it seems the people of this community somewhat respected Lot and didn't come into his home, whereas it seems like other people might violate this privacy. So this is an intense situation. The record explains that Lot goes out to plead with the mob and tries desperately to protect the holy men, by offering his daughters. But the Joseph Smith translation gives us insight into this situation. Notice the added words that show Lot's true intention, courage, and boldness in this situation. Good, because I'm already not liking this. So let's see how Joseph Smith translation works. And he says, and they said unto him, stand back. And they were angry with him. And they said among themselves, this one man came in to sojourn among us, and he will needs now make himself to be a judge. Now we will deal worse with him than with them. Wherefore they said unto man, we will have the men and thy daughters also, and we will do with them as seemeth us good. Okay, see, that makes more sense, because it doesn't seem like Lot would be the kind of guy to do that. Now this was after the wickedness of Sodom. And Lot said, behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known men. Let me, I pray you, plead with my brethren that I may not bring them out unto you, and ye shall not do unto them as seemeth good in your eyes. For God will not justify his servant in this thing. Wherefore let me plead with my brethren this once only, that unto these men ye do nothing, that they may have peace in my house. For therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And they were angry with Lot, and came near to break the door. But the angels of God, which were holy men, put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house unto them, and shut the door. Okay, so the Joseph Smith translation helps us a lot here with the feelings that I was having about Lot and his choices, because it seemed like he was a righteous guy, so why would he do that to his daughters, right? Like, it didn't seem right? So the Joseph Smith translation helps us to see that Lot didn't go out and try to give his daughters to the crazed mob, but that the mob was demanding both the men and Lot's daughters, but Lot stood against them, which only angered them. So this Joseph Smith translation helps us see Lot as a completely different character than without it. Ooh, that's so true, right? The mob was at Lot's home, but they did not respect his wishes and came near to break the door. And then the holy men miraculously delivered Lot by smiting those at the door with blindness. Imagine how intense the situation would have been. Oh man, the messengers knew it was time to get out of the city. Okay, so let's see right here. It says, and they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the men, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. Now what I want to know is why we translated it in that way, to make Lot look like a bad guy, make Lot look like a bad dad, right? I wonder why why the translation happened in that way. Because I'm like, are you kidding? Like, any respecting dad would not do this to their daughters, you know? And verse 12, and the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons and thy daughters? And whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because of the cry of them is waxen great before the face of the Lord. And the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him. Okay, so this is the part that I love. Like, sometimes, hold on, let me finish reading the sentence actually. The Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. Okay, so these guys are like dragging people by their hands, like, let's go, right? And like Abraham had made this covenant with the Lord, and the Lord was like, fine, I'll save those guys, right, for you. And then verse 17, and it came to pass when they had brought them forth abroad that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my Lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which hast thou shewed unto me in saving my life. I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. So he was not a mountain guy, I guess. He likes the city. He's a city guy. Trust, I know. I'm not huge on the mountains either. Too many bugs, too much outdoors. I am definitely not an outdoorsy girl. I was going to say, though, that I love that sometimes in parenting, it's the same thing. It's like, you know, you tell the kids, you tell people, and you're like, do this, right? And they don't. And you're like, but this is for your own good. It's like, you cannot go out in the street. You cannot go play there. But then they go play there. And so then you're like, I'm sorry, that is not the place to be. You're literally going to die because cars are giant and they are bigger than you. So then you got to pull them away using like some force and get them out of there, because just for their safety, right? And so that was what these men were doing. And now it says that they were angels. And I think that they were called angels because of their role, that what they were doing, they were saving, right? And what do we normally call our friends who rescue us or save us? And they're angels on the earth, right? And so these men were just like really awesome, holy guys. But it doesn't say that they were specifically like angels with like, you know, angelic characteristic type things, right? Besides the fact that they were just coming to share a message, to share the message that the Lord was going to destroy stuff and pull people out. And that's kind of like what a prophet does, right? For us. And I love that comment from one of the sisters in our Sunday school. She was saying that the prophet is the one pulling us out from the wickedness of the world to try and save us. Now, he can't pull all of us by hand, sadly, because we would. But maybe that's what our job is, right? That's as parents. Like, we're trying to pull our kids out of this wickedness to save them. And so, anyway, I thought that was a really cool thing. And so then it says, which thou hast. Okay, and then he's like, some evil thing's going to take me in the mountains. So then he says, behold now, this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said unto him, see, I have accepted thee concerning this thing. Also, I will not overthrow the city for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zor. And the sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zor. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. Okay, so it sounds like, to me anyway, that he was asking like, hey, I can't live in the mountains, but can I go to this little city over here? Does that seem like it'd be okay? Like too close? Is it too close to the destruction going to be happening over there? Or is it cool? And he was like, fine, I'll let you go to that city, right? And then as soon as Lot entered the city, then the Lord was able to send fire and brimstone out of heaven to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And then it says 25, and he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. That is so hard right there, because we judge her based on like, hey, she had her 2 daughters, her husband. Why is she looking back? It must be just like her goods or her possessions. It must just be that she's very materialistic or a gold digger, right? But let's think about the people that Lot was trying to grab and tell about the messengers, and was trying to tell them about what was about to happen. Remember, it said some son-in-laws, and so she had family there. What about grandkids? Like, they didn't even talk about grandkids. If she had sons-in-laws, that means they had grandkids. And if they have grandkids, forget it. You know, like, I know grandmas, it's like, do not mess with the grandkids. And so the fact that like her whole, like some of her family was over there must have been so painful. And so I don't pretend to know why she turned back. So I don't want to judge her. Because who knows, I probably would look back if my grandkids were there too, You had to have serious faith and not to look back. And not trying to be insensitive to the guys, but, there's those, sometimes it's just like one of those things where women are just a little bit more sensitive to things, specifically to family related things, right? So in my mind, I don't think that she was super materialistic and a gold digger and just wanted to live in her house, which, by the way, did not seem like it would have been a very safe place to be, by the way, because she had to stay in her home the whole time. So she was just like trapped in there, right? But maybe she was trapped in there with her grandkids and she was able to protect them and keep them safe, right? And while I know in my mind that when the Lord destroys a place, even when there's good things happening or good children and the children have to suffer, and then they die. And I know that for the Lord, it's just like one phase of their existence goes into a different phase. But for us, it's so different, right? Like we are like, why are they dying? And so I don't think that it's as unbelievable to think that she looked back. And that was what our patriarch said in Sunday school. And I was like, oh, I had never thought of it that way. That she was looking back maybe because she couldn't believe that that was happening and that her grandkids were over there, or maybe her just son-in-laws and her other daughters, or, just other family. And what about the good friends, us women, we join in with other women. And when we make friendships, it's like really strong, especially when you're in that kind of environment where it's where it's like traumatic environments. You have these bonds with other people who are going through the same experience, and then you have these stronger bonds. And so like, it's not just like, oh, I have friends, but it's more like I have friends, because they're like, you're surviving with them and stuff. And so anyway, that's what I think. And so yes, we need to have faith to not look back so that we don't turn into the pillar of salt. And so this is a good lesson for us. But let's make sure that our heart is always first centered on the Lord. And because we need to protect ourselves from the extra, like, yes, we're making these really awesome friendships and connections with people and grandkids and all these things. But if the Savior is not at the center, at the core, then we will fall apart. We will become a pillar of salt, right? And then what are we good for? We're not good for any of the people that we love. We're not good for anybody else. We are good for nothing because we are a pillar of salt, right? And I wonder if that's symbolic of like why did she turn into a pillar of salt, right? I wonder, the other verses that talk about salt and how salt is, we are the salt of the earth. And, she didn't go up into ashes, or she didn't, but she became a pillar of salt. But now she can't help anyone. She can't give anyone that flavor, right? She can no longer spread that because she did look back and her soul longed to be there, right? There's a quote from Elder Jeffrey R. Holland, and he gave a devotional at BYU titled, "Remember Lot's Wife." And he used her example to teach some important life lessons. So he said, Surely, with the Lord's counsel, look not behind thee, ringing clearly in her ears. Lot's wife, the record says, looked back, and she was turned into a pillar of salt. It is possible that Lot's wife looked back with resentment toward the Lord for what he was asking her to leave behind. And that's normal, it's sad. Sometimes the Lord does ask us to leave behind things, people that we love. So it isn't just that she looked back longingly. In short, her attachment to the past outweighed her confidence in the future. That apparently was at least part of her sin, right? And so, anyway, there's more to that talk, but that's what I wanted to read. Verse 27, and Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord, and he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in the which Lot dwelt. And Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in the cave, he and his 2 daughters. Okay, so he went out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, because it seemed like, remember when he was like, I'm not going to the mountain, right? But then something must have happened at Zoar that he was like, actually, oh, you know what? Maybe what it was he could have seen like the smoke coming up from Sodom and Gomorrah and was like, actually, I'm going to go obey the Lord and I'm going to go into the mountain. Because sometimes we need like that extra nudge of like God knows something that we don't know. And sometimes when we listen, sometimes when we listen, because we don't listen all the time, right? And when we listen, we are blessed. And sometimes when we don't listen, we don't receive that blessing. And so, I bet he looked over and was like, oh, actually, didn't he say we need to go to the mountain? The mountain is looking much nicer now. So then it's like he's leaving and he goes to the mountain. And now he's in a cave with his daughters. So these verses contain an unfortunate circumstance with Lot's daughters. The destruction of their former home was so complete that they thought everyone in the planet Earth was dead. So that belief caused them to make some bad decisions. It is also worth considering what kind of an impact living in such an immoral society had on them, which may have led these decisions they were now making. Okay, so the rest of these verses are pretty gross, I think. Anyway, it says, and the firstborn said unto the younger, our father is old, and there is not a man on the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Okay, so they think everyone on the planet is dead. And of course you think, how is that even possible that they think this? Remember, the place that they were living probably did not have a good educational system. And so these poor women, had to figure things out. Anyway, so verse 32, come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. And he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also. And go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him. And he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father, which is so gross. Hold on. Okay, and so gross. They were both the daughters of Lot thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. Now, I'm not trying to go and be saying anything about different cultures or whatever it is, but to me, it sounds really gross. And that relationship boundary is something that I would not cross ever, regardless, But they legit felt that they were not going to be able to have any more kids or anything. And the firstborn bare a son and called his name Moab, and the same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger, she also bare a son and called his name Ben-Ammi. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day, right? So like they, regardless of the choice that they made, that was crazy and really sad. And I'm sure that they regretted it later and were like, oh, there's other people on the planet? That sucks. Right? But at the same time, it's like, what about those people who legit feel like they are not going to ever have children? What are some things that people do when they get desperate like that? Like, you know, there's people who, and I'm not saying this is bad or that this is good or that this is what we need to do, but you know, when I struggle with infertility, it was like, well, how else can we have children, right? It's like, I want to bear children. How can we make this happen? And it's like, you go through all of the different scenarios and think about different ways that this can happen. And it's like, well, is it me or is it him? And if it's me, what am I supposed to do? There's surrogacy, there's, you know, all kinds of, I could adopt. And, you know, we have all these options. They felt like they didn't even have any options, right? What if it's him? If it's him, then I have other options of like sperm donation or also surrogacy or, you know, like adoption. Like there's so many different things. And so like, and if you've watched some of those movies with like the whole sperm donation places, it's crazy, right? And it just, anyway, it's like, that's what they made their choice to do that. They were able to have the children that they desired. And I am guessing as time went on, their knowledge increased and most likely realized that, hey, that was not the best idea, but you know, we must move forward with our lives. And maybe they didn't even tell their dad. Maybe they just told their dad like, oh, sorry, we just, you know, although I don't know, because somehow they must have told their dad something because it's in here. They told Abraham. I don't know, you know. It seems like a really unfortunate situation. So anyway, President M. Russell Ballard's counsel, when he said this, you don't have to allow your community to become like Sodom and Gomorrah in order to understand that it isn't a good place to raise a family, right? That's so true. So anyways, what can we learn from observing Lot's family? Like so many things. And what have we learned about the wickedness of Sodom, right? Remember, those daughters didn't know things, and they probably did not have the knowledge and the awareness of like their gifts and the things that the Lord has given them and how their bodies are a temple and, you know, all these things. And so maybe they didn't understand that, or maybe they knew that they didn't want that from anybody over there. And they were like, well, our dad's like the most righteous guy. Anyway, I don't know. I'm guessing we probably just need to end it there so that I don't try and continue to speculate on other people's problems. Okay, I'm going to go get the Read It, Live It. Anyways, there's so many other things we can focus on besides that. Those poor girls. Okay. They're fine now though, obviously. Okay. So so this is the Read It, Live It. And this is based on verse number 18. And it says, and while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand and brought him forth. Okay. So even when Lot hesitated, God's messengers pulled him out. The Lord doesn't wait for perfect readiness. Ooh, that's a good one. Sometimes he sends others to take your hand and lead you to safety. Trust God's messengers. Yes, the prophets. The prophets will lead us to the right place. Okay, actually, I think there's another Read It, Live It for verse 9 or for chapter 19. Yes, there is. Boop. Okay, this one says, but his wife looked back and she became a pillar of salt. Okay, so she didn't return, just turned back. Sometimes the past is more tempting than it should be, but looking back too long can cost you everything. Face forward. And that's true. I think sometimes when we look back too long, we stay stuck there. And that's what Satan wants us to do. Oh, we used to be awesome. We used to be amazing. Look at what we used to have. Wish we could go back. And there's that like song, wish I could turn back time to the good old days, right? And it's like, yeah, like sometimes I do wish I could be a child, but also I'm so glad that I'm not a child. It's because I have all these other things that children cannot experience, cannot have. And so it's okay to look back, and I always reminisce and I look at pictures and things on my Google photos, and I'm always like, oh, look how little they were and look how precious. And, you know, those things kind of help me to remember how loving our relationships were, to help strengthen my current relationships now, so that it's not like a thing that like I'm not going to stay in my room and, you know, close the door and be so sad that my kids are no longer little, right? Because they're still here, and I can take advantage of like the opportunities I now have with them to create new memories and new experiences with them anyway. And let's be honest, traveling with babies is harder than traveling with teens, right? Although there could be different things to look forward to, right? Because at least a baby, you're just bringing the baby with you. They don't have any say. They don't have any opinions. They just are cute and cry and throw up. But like, anyway, so that is it for Genesis chapter 19, and we'll go to Genesis chapter 20. Stay strong, warrior.